Hello and welcome back once again, and we are looking at how different Synology NASes run DSM 7. For those that aren't aware, DSM 7 has now been released in its RC release candidate, which is basically going silver, which basically means we are this close to full release. So now is a very good time to go through and see how different NASes run DSM 7. It's a great bit of it's a hell of an upgrade over 6.2. We've been waiting years for it now, and finally it's within our grasp. So to save you from upgrading from DSM 6.2 to DSM 7, today I'm going to be installing DSM 7.0. I'm going to do that before, don't worry, you don't have to sit through that. I'm going to install the RC candidate on this, the DS920 Plus, and then I'm going to be running a series of tests to see how well it performs. These are going to include browsing through the graphical user interface, going through the control panel options, looking at files on File Station, then we're going to move on to multimedia, where we're going to be looking at Photo Station, Audio Station, and looking at Video Station, and then we're going to check out the Surveillance Station platform to see how well that all runs through, all within DSM 7 on this. Now the DS920 Plus, using a quad-core Intel CPU and 4 gig of memory, should be absolutely fine. We tried out earlier betas of DSM 7 on this very NAS, and it's run pretty well, so it's going to be good to see how the RC candidate goes. But before you go ahead, the reason I'm making this video is because if you upgrade to DSM 7, reverting it back to 6.2 is, difficult, bordering on the impossible for some people. So if you watch this video, hopefully this will help you make the decision whether you want to upgrade. But just remember that if you do it, you can't revert back. Same thing goes with the photos. You're going to go from Synology Photo Station and Synology Moments. They're sort of going to go away, and that data will be migrated onto Synology Photos, so do bear that in mind. So without further ado, let's boot up this NAS. And I'm going to make my way over to the screen. I'm going to sort out DSM 7, get all the files on there, and we're going to crack straight on with DSM 7 on this NAS. Right, so here we are on the desktop of our DS920 Plus via the web browser. Silly me, I have already logged into this. Log out so you can see just how quickly it lets you log in. So let's log into the device, put the password in properly. So we can count in, and boom, we're straight out the user interface. I never get sick of how quick this logs in. Now, the DS920 Plus is a great example of a NAS that runs DSM 7, but do bear in mind, once again, we are running the release candidate version. That is to say, it's pretty much the last version before the real full release. And it's the deciding point where the version we're using now is pretty much the complete thing without the dotting the I's and crossing the T's. If you do want to download it, just go straight to the download center on Synology, put in the name of your NAS, but just make sure that you tick this little box here at the top that lets you flick between the two versions. Now, Gerald the Seagull, as you can hear him out there, is the beginning of a big problem I've got right now for this video. Notwithstanding the fact I am running, of course, on OBS there in the background, I am running this video being recorded on Saturday the 12th of June. I'm running it here by the seaside where I live, and notwithstanding all of the people that are coming down to the coast because it's sunny, also you've got people playing steel drums outside this office. Steel drums! Have you ever tried controlling the sound in an office during steel drums? I've had to make all kinds of last minute bits and bob changes here to the office to try and get rid of some of the background noise, but I apologise if a lot of it leaks through. I could leave to record this the other day, but I have quite a packed schedule for next week. And on top of that, this is the RC version. I know a number of you are on the verge of downloading this and installing it on your NAS, and you're just not sure, because unless you're not aware, if you do install the DSM 7 RC version, or even when you upgrade to DSM 7 full very, very, very soon, it is not downgradable. It's theoretically possible, but you do have to go in via the back end, and it is incredibly difficult to do so. So I wanted to get this video out there before a number of you install DSM 7 and maybe aren't keen on DSM 7 or the way it works, and you wish you'd stayed with 6.2. It's quite astounding, and I've mentioned this in the other videos this week, but just how low DSM 7 can be installed. The DS920, if you're not aware, is a single core 800 megahertz NAS with, I think, either 256 megabytes of RAM or maybe even less. The system we're running, of course, is a DS920, which is a great little NAS, quad-core Celeron processor with 4 gig of memory. And for those who aren't aware already, DSM 7 does have a recommended minimum of 1 gig of memory. And of course, we're running on 4, so we'll be absolutely fine. Now, just like I said in the intro, we are testing a number of things. We're going to test the graphical user interface, logging in, logging out. We're going to look at the control panel. We're going to see how responsive File Station is. We're going to be taking advantage of different applications from Synology Photos through to Audio Station. On top of Audio Station, we're also going to be running Video Station. And after that, we are going to be running Surveillance Station. Why did I make a big old song and dance to this? Because I want to show, more than anything, how well the system runs all of these processes simultaneously. I kind of went easy on the other NAS devices, the 120, 220 and 220 Plus. But in this, I'm using the 920 Plus. So I expect this NAS to do the lot. I'm not going to go easy on this NAS because I think this standard of hardware is where a lot of users will expect DSM 7 to deliver very much on its promises there. So when we use Surveillance Station, we're going to be running a couple of cameras there in the live view. As you can see there, you can see these silly bits of foam I've set up there in the background around the NAS to kind of limit some of the noise coming through. Originally, these NASs were going to be on the other side of the office, but unfortunately, it's just not possible. On top of that, with Video Station, little glitches like that one. Unfortunately, we are going to have to pin that down on OBS more than anything. I know you guys didn't see it, but I could see the glimmer. And then Video Station, we have not enabled the metadata scraping there in the background, largely because it looks like it uses a forced IMDb API installation there. So if we try to integrate it manually, you do try and put it in, and now you're kind of forced to use to get the API, whereas prior to that, it looked like it was semi-autonomous. Something we will look into, and we're not going to judge it too hard on that. And of course, photos, unlike my other videos where I didn't force the system to use AI recognition, this time, because it's the 920, I expect the system to use that. But let's go right back to the desktop there. Let's get rid of a number of these messy windows we've opened and stick with the course at hand. Once again, I apologize for the background noise and the proximity we are to both NAS devices and to the laptop with its fans. So let's go into the control panel as discussed. Let's go straight away into the info center. As you can see, we are running a DS920 Plus. We are running it. We've got the remote option, which we've set up on the fly. But don't worry, we're not really going to be worrying too much about that. We are using an IP connection up there at the top, as you can see. And of course, it is the 920 with its quad-core Celeron processor, or Celeron. Yes, I remember you corrected me in the comments. Of course you did. And of course, all 4 cores there. And actually, it's got 8 gig of memory, presumably, from our previous testing. So even though it's 8 gig, try to remember that this down here is relative. So if you are running a default setup at 4 gig, then these numbers here you can largely double for you there. But it has to be said that even if you go into the resource monitor, you can see a lot of very intelligent background hibernation happening with a number of the processes on the fly quite quickly. Go there, all of those apps there that are sleeping. Zoom in a little bit. If you scroll to the top, you can see the ones that are running and how it caches between them on the fly quite quickly. But again, we'll leave that performance monitor there on screen. So let's go into that File Station application there. And again, we can flick through some options nice and quickly, seeing how quickly it responds to them. Let's go into the Photos folder there. Let's open up a photo very quickly. Let's go for Christmas. Select a random Christmas photo. What have we got? We've got a picture of a cat. Of course we've got a picture of a cat. We've only seemingly ever got pictures of cats. But again, we can flick through them. We can do little screenshots and all that stuff. And the thumbnail generation is pretty prompt, pretty quick, nice and easy there. And again, we can move between files and photos there quite straightforwardly, and it's quite responsive there. You saw the log in, the log out. CPU utilization has ramped a little bit there. We can have a look there. The CPU utilization has ramped up quite significantly there. So if we go into the task manager, we can see what exactly is the application that has suddenly spiked up there. Looks like we've just missed the window. Presumably it was doing some of the thumbnail generation there in the background, but CPU utilization there, it's general background stuff. So from here, let's move into the photos. Let's get that photos thing there. We've already done the facial tagging there. It's already indexed all of those. we go into the photos area there, we've got it playing the GIFs, live photos there in the background. And again, ridiculous number of photos of cats. Let's be honest, I'm only bloody human. And again, we can go through there. It's generating those thumbnails lovely and quickly there all the way through. Let's find a photo and check the metadata as well. Let's start as we mean to go on. Let's go ahead. Let's go for this photo here. We've got a little bit of snacky food. It's Christmas time, everybody. Find out a little bit more information about where the photo was taken. We've got all of that lovely metadata there and there about the device that took it, where it took it, what was the aperture, the ISO, all of that lovely information pulled exactly how I would like to see it. And again, we can go ahead, we can run one of those GIFs there in the background of my cat ripping their present open. Shut up, I'm only human, don't at me. Go into the albums, we can go into the photo recognition there. Let's find a picture of me there. Let's find a bad picture of me indeed. Go there, Wallop Robbie, let's find another picture of me here. Another picture of me. Go ahead, add Robbie there, merge two photos. Boom, we can go there and there's all those pictures of Robbie there on the fly. All of those awful pictures of me there. Picture of Morgan having less and less fun with me. But nice and easy there. We even got information there being readily displayed on screen there in the background, telling us more about this. More information there about me preparing for a video before I shot away for Christmas. And again, all the metadata there. So it's that combination of photos and photo station and moments. So we got that facial recognition there, nice and quickly. Going to the places, all the locations have all been tag pulled from the metadata, it has to be said. Tags there haven't activated. I'm not 100% certain. I'm willing to give Synology the benefit of the doubt there, that perhaps it's a setting that I've not played with. In the previous videos, I intentionally disabled the person tagging because I felt that was a bit unfair to gauge DSM 7 on those rather modest hardware setups. There was like one with half a gig of memory with DSM minimum, but I kind of assumed it would allow those tags to go through. So again, I'm prepared to give Photo Station the benefit of the doubt there, but I'm kind of surprised that those didn't go straight into the tags with the object recognition that we've seen previously. But there's still lots of options there to play with. If we come, we've got the sharing there, and again, it's got that kind of personal shared with others user interface there, and of course I am using my own standard login there, but we're going to leave that there on screen. Videos we'll make our way into, and again, the metadata not being scraped does mean that the videos we're looking at, we're seeing a limited version of those. If we go into the movies, we always play the same video file there. Let's go for The Matrix. We've had to mute things, of course. We can go ahead there, skip forward, absolutely fine. We can skip all the way through. Hopefully there isn't any pixelization while we're running OBS there in the background. We can go for some transcoding there. Again, we'll get that played through. We'll transcode down to low picture quality there, which I believe is 480p, but don't quote me on that. That presumably will ramp up the resource monitor as well. While we're doing that, that's quite a pushy little task there. There's still that CPU spike from earlier. I'd love to look into that a little bit more. We are running this system, I should say, if we go into the storage manager, not the SAN manager. We're running this system with 4 drives in an SHR. As you can see there, there is our pool of drives. If we go into the storage media, you can see these are WD drives, 8 TB drives there, WD Red 8 TBs, running lovely and easily, all of that there on screen, lots of healthy stuff. And again, you've got all of the usual information there at the top about, checking the drives, that kind of stuff, getting the scrubbing there, doing some of the caching. If we had some SSD caching, we had NVMEs, they would show here, and then we could use them. We wouldn't even need to dismount the whole storage pool, which is always handy as well. Again, I've mentioned this in previous videos, but I'm going to play audio files there, but because of the good old-fashioned YouTube AI, it makes it very, very tricksy to just play music, unfortunately. If I go straight in and just play one of these random files there, I'm going to go ahead and play it anyway. We're going to go for something, let's be honest, Super Mario All-Stars. Let's unmute it for a bit. Doesn't help, we've still got the Matrix playing there. I think we can get rid of that. You're probably hearing an absolutely bastardized version of that through the microphone. But again, played the file very, very quickly. Just as responsive as we wanted it to be. So again, lots of stuff there. Let's remute the laptop. I'm quite impressed with this so far. We've done videos, we've done music. Let's make our way into surveillance station. We've got the 2 camera feeds there. And again, we've only enabled 2. We've only got the 2 camera licenses. I've pulled my hands away from the desk. Just wanted to see how long it would take to be responsive. Obviously, right now, I'm running a network that's quite heavily populated with Synology NASes, so it's quite busy right now as I prepare for all of these different tests with DSM 7. If I move away to the other camera, wave there at the other camera, we'll see how long it takes to pick that up. Let's have a look there. There we go. We've got a delay probably of around 8 seconds there, maybe 9, as I come back to the feed there. But again, we've got all of the controls there. We've got the pan, tilt, zoom there, which on this busy network, I believe, is not being as good as it could be. We can go ahead and have a little look, zoom in perhaps. Let's do a quick area zoom so we can drag and zoom. Let's go for Synology's own logo. Let's be a bit brandy. And then on the other side, we can do exactly the same thing. So we can do drag and zoom, but this time we will zoom in on my screen, which is pretty much just showing us what we're seeing here. So we've got that level of control. We've got the option. We can go into the recordings. We can go into the timeline, all of those alerts and recordings that have taken place while the cameras have been recording. So we can go ahead and play an overnight recording there at 4:50 a.m. There's the 2 NASes that we left, the 2 J series boxes to do their jobs. And then if we minimize that, we can go back to the live feed and even open up the timeline if we choose. So we can go and get the timeline up there. So we're pushing this system quite a lot right now. It has to be said, all the different services and stuff that we're running. So right now on screen, I'm running a live view on the 2 cameras there at the top right. I'm running on the bottom left the timeline there of the cameras that were recording overnight as I arrived in the office and more. At the same time, at the top of the screen there, we can see the recorded footage that we're playing from a pre-select archive. There you can see me setting up the NAS for today's video. We can go all the way back to yesterday as well. Go even as late as 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock there. Go in, try and find out if that's when I left the office yesterday. So have a little look, but I'm going to go with a negative there. And there you go, getting ready for the whole thing shutting up and shutting down. But for me, that's still running pretty darn well there in the background. All of that stuff happening. And all the while, we can now do a little bit of testing of simultaneous actions on this system. We want to see with this NAS now transcoding on the fly while simultaneously playing back all of this stuff, all of these recordings happening in real time in 30-minute blocks. This camera down here. Do you know what? Let's even speed it up. Make it go through and play those files. It's really taxed the system. We're leaving that to play back the file and tax the system. We will have a GIF there running in Synology Video Station. And then just to make things even worse, let's go ahead, click copy and transfer some files there in the background. And all the while, we're going to watch the resource monitor either have a bit of a fit or get the job done. You can see the network is already ramping up as we're doing more and more here. Relatively, it's actually not that big. When you're thinking about a gigabit network, but you've got to imagine all of these cameras, all of this back and forth, all of this is happening to a single LAN port on the NAS. But still, it does seem to be running very, very well for me, and DSM 7 is still allowing me to browse through the configuration options, browse through some of the settings. If we wanted to go ahead and create a new user, perhaps, we can go ahead and do that quite easily. There's no real slowdown there, and for me, if you are a DS920 user and you're concerned about utilizing DSM 7 on your DS920 Plus, is that it may result in slowdown. I can definitely tell you that that's not the case. DSM 7 seemingly runs very, very well on this system. And yes, of course, I am using 8 gig of memory. If we go into the memory settings there, you can see just how much is being utilized. However, 8 gig of memory, even if you were running 4 gig of memory instead and you halved these numbers, that would still be pretty acceptable for all of these actions that are happening here all simultaneously with a live camera. If I put my hand in the air there, put my hand up, we're doing that countdown. There we are, to do all of these things at once with that fast forward 8 times speed happening there in real time there on the camera. If we go for something a little bit more live, we'll go to right now while we're doing this recording. Go for like 9:21. There I am running around there the office, given that we can do all of that stuff there while the camera is the live feed is doing that. I'm prepared to give good old DSM 7 here on the 920 the thumbs up for me, and it's exactly how I would expect it to be. But I'm going to wrap things up there. The next NAS that we will be looking at is the DS1621 Plus. We, of course, still have the video for DSM 7 on the DS920, an incredibly modest NAS, a dual-core ARM 32-bit with, I believe, half a gig of memory. That system there is still indexing as we speak. So until that unit is ready and it's fully indexed, I think it would be very unfair to judge it right now. But that and the 1621 Plus are the last ones left, at least for this week, before we go into another phase. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, let me know in the comments and click like, so it helps me understand what sort of stuff you guys are into. Click subscribe if you want to stay tuned for the rest of these videos as they come up. And otherwise, cheers for watching, and I will see you next time.